Welcome to the Darkstream, Voxday, voxday.blogspot.com, and unauthorized.tv. Good evening. Thanks for tuning in. And tonight we're going to talk about something that someone asked me on Social Galactic yesterday, which is how can you tell that someone has taken the ticket? And this was brought up by my comment that Joe Rogan had obviously taken the ticket, as it was announced that he had a $100 million deal with Spotify. Now, why was I so certain that this involved taking the ticket in some way? And it's because of some of the things that I've seen in the media. Remember, I'm one of the only 3-time nationally syndicated columnists you'll ever meet, because syndicated columns have gone the way of the dodo, along with the death of the newspaper. The ticket is not free, but you don't pay for it in money. You pay for it with your soul, your integrity, and your self-esteem. What you are required to do in order to take the ticket is you essentially agree to do what you're told by the people who are making your success possible, who are generating your success. One of the big things that I think it's difficult for people to grasp is how little success is genuine these days. Most success, as we think of it, most perceived success is actually simply gifted to people. It's simply given to people. Now, everyone always, most people contribute in some way to your success. When you're doing business deals with, especially with larger companies, they contribute to your success. But there's a big difference between a partner who contributes to your success and someone manufacturing your success. Let me give you 2 examples of the difference. When we first started doing computer games with Fenris Wolf, my partner and I had no idea what we were doing. For all the business books my dad had me read, and all the theory and the Peter Drucker and the what's the guy, Tom Peters, for all that, there wasn't a single book that I'd read that actually said, this is how you should structure a contract. This is what you should ask for when you're developing software, and so forth. And so we were talking to Creative Labs. We had both left my dad's company, which manufactured high-end computer graphics cards. And Creative knew us because we were the guys working on the demo for this chip that they were doing. Now, the chip didn't work out. Some of you have heard me talk about the 3GA for various reasons. But what it did do for us is it did allow us to meet a lot of people who were very interested in games. Because at the time, the chip manufacturers and the board manufacturers understood that games were the reason people were going to buy their boards and chips. So you had companies like Rendition, companies like Diamond, and then companies like NVIDIA, Creative Labs, etc., etc. And Creative Labs was always particularly impressed with us because we had trademarked the term 3D Blaster, 18 months before. So they realized that we understood where things were going, and they liked the little demo that we had put together, right? Now, our total cluelessness was exhibited when we were asked to provide them with a budget for the game, and then they were going to offer us a contract, a development contract, where we would be developing to their hardware. It would be exclusive to their hardware, and they would in turn include our software with their boards and they'd pay us, 25 cents per board they sold or something like that. The money that they would pay us up front would be in advance against those potential royalties. Now, this is why I've always learned that Hyman Roth in The Godfather 2 had it right. He said, always make sure that your partners make money. Always look out for their interests. And, you want to, the best way that you can repay people is to treat other people correctly the way that they treated you. And, the guy at Creative Labs understood that we were young, understood that we didn't know what we were doing. So when we sent him a budget of $75,000, we were shocked the next day to receive their response, which was a contract for $150,000. And so I didn't want to, but you got to be honest. So I called him up and I said, "Hey, we got the contract today. We're really sorry, but I think you made a mistake. We asked you for $75,000 and you offered us $150,000 in response." And he started laughing and he said, "No, that's what we want to pay you. We know you guys are young, but you didn't have any money in there for the two of you. We saw what was budgeted for the artist, for the other programmer, the sound guy, but you guys were missing from the budget." And we said, "Well, but it's our company." He started laughing and he said, "Yes, but you have to pay yourself." So we're like, "Oh, okay." And so, we did that. We were successful with that. That was, Rebel Moon, which still to this day really only runs on the 3D Blaster. And also, that became the springboard to a much bigger deal with Intel, which we did with Rebel Moon Rising the next year. And it was all the result of somebody on the other end who was looking out for us. He was looking out for the interests of his partner because he understood that we didn't know what we were doing. And we were good at making the game, but this was our first business deal. Now, that's not taking the ticket. He literally asked us for nothing. He didn't require us to do anything. In fact, when he was moving on, and I reminded him of what he had done for us and expressed our appreciation for what he had done for us, he said, "Hey, there's going to come a time in the future when you're going to be dealing with some bright young kids who are clueless." He said, "Treat them right. Look out for them. Don't take advantage of them." And so, we've attempted to do that. If you look at our publishing contracts and all that sort of thing, we offered the highest royalties that are out there as long as Castalia has been around. And that's one of the reasons why people like to continue to work with us. But taking the ticket, that is when you are simply gifted something. When you're simply given something that you don't merit. And this is different. Like a lot of people would say, well, what about John Scalzi's big $3 million deal with Tor? I don't believe he took the ticket because, I think that Scalzi is just a hell of a con man. But a better example of somebody taking the ticket is someone like Lady Gaga. Here you've got someone who is modestly talented, not particularly attractive, by all accounts stole her shtick from a friend who either died or committed suicide or what, I don't know. There's various stories and stuff, and frankly, I don't know enough about the histories of pop singers to whom I don't listen. But she actually talks publicly about how when she was struggling, someone approached her and offered her success as long as she would submit to them. And all the nonsense that you see, all the symbology and semiotics and occult gang flashing that she engages in is almost certainly a direct result of that. Justin Bieber's another person who is clearly at some point taken the ticket and deeply regrets it. That's why you see these young people coming up, and you see these more experienced musicians, just shaking their heads and almost mourning, the way that, because they know what these people are doing to themselves. They know what is going to happen to them. They know that they're going to have to trade who they are and become something that they're not in order to fit the mold. I don't believe that ticket takers understand the spiritual aspect to their deals in most cases. I think that they all understand that there's a spiritual aspect to it down the road. And there's even, you can look at all kinds of examples. I mean, there's probably dozens of different videos on YouTube talking about the ritual ceremonies that take place at these award shows. The whole thing with Taylor Swift, and you see her descent into just degradation and awful symbology. And how can you tell? The easiest way to tell is when the amount of success is disproportionate to the amount of effort that is normally required. It is very, very, very rare for any book or any band or any song to take off and become massively successful simply on its own merits. And when you look at, keep in mind, there's not that much money in a single big hit, right? You look at the one-hit wonders of the world. Nobody's retiring on that. And so when you look at how these people just come out of nowhere, have seemingly no talent, and then just explode upward, that's where you have a pretty good idea that something's going on. I'll give you a very good example. Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson was a sellout from the start. Jordan Peterson was literally trying to sell out, but no one was really that interested. Finally, he got picked up by a guy in the Canadian media, and then they decided that he was useful enough once it was necessary to try to further disrupt the young right, the alt-right, the nationalist right, whatever you want to call it. Billie Eilish is an excellent example. How many Grammys did she win? Some absolutely ridiculous number of Grammys. It was so bad that she was actually embarrassed by it. And you look at the kind of music and the kind of themes and stuff that she is dealing in. Frankly, I don't even think that it's Billie Eilish herself. It's probably her brother. Her brother's the one who actually writes the music and so forth. And so when you are given these opportunities, it's basically a form of spiritual casting couch. The ticket is a spiritual casting couch, just like the young actress who is, or actor, who is willing to be physically abused by a director or a producer or whoever it is that they're trying to get the acting job from. The politician or the politician or the musician or the author or any of these people, they are given these opportunities at the price of being obedient, of doing what they're told to do. And so when you look at a lot of the, I don't know, obviously, what the exact arrangement is because I'm not privy to these things. It's not like somebody comes up to you and says, "Hi, would you like to have 4 New York Times bestsellers before the age of 30? Sign a contract here in blood." It doesn't work like that. It works the same way that everything else, every other seduction works. What they do, whether it's in the music industry, whether it's in the politics, whether it's in literature, whatever it is, they offer you the next step. So if you're in a band and your record label takes you to a club, the first thing is that they're going to offer you some kind of drug, in the limo, in the bathroom, whatever. And whatever you take, whatever you accept, is the step to the next one. And it's the next step, and the next step, and the next step. And so, and obviously at the higher levels, that's when they start requiring people to do things of varying levels of illegal and unpleasant and immoral. And, because then it becomes important to have some level of control over those people. They don't need a whole lot of control over pop stars and writers and stuff, because all they got to do is threaten to take away what they've given. And so, but all it is a shortcut. And here's another way that you can tell that the genuine talent is not, is being locked out, is because there's all kinds of people who are far more talented, who write better books, better songs. It's not just that everybody happens to love Britney Spears or the rapper du jour that much. And so, it's part of the the degradation of culture is in part because of this. Look, for example, if you look at the idea that Chuck Dixon is not good enough to write for Marvel anymore or DC anymore, or even someone like I'm not a big fan of Ethan Van Sciver, but the idea that he's not good enough to draw for DC anymore is ridiculous. The guy can go out and raise over $500,000 for 48 pages of frog drawings, right? And so what's necessary for them, obviously, then, is that they have to try to also choke off all the independent routes to success. That's why they tried to kick us off of Indiegogo. That's why they tried to, kick various people. Excuse me. That's why they try to kick people off of Patreon. That's why they try to kick them off of PayPal and everything else. Because the whole idea is to bolster the notion that submission is a necessary element of success. And that's absolutely not true. And that's one of the reasons why Owen has been so targeted, because Owen was able to be successful without them. Now, he was very successful because of them. You know, he was with CAA. You know, he was, embraced by that whole sort of industry. But once he made it clear that he had not submitted, they ejected him, and then they went out of their way to try to make sure that he wouldn't be able to be successful on his own. And yet they couldn't stop him, because he has enough talent that he can sit there for 3 hours on an ammo box, and more people will watch him than will watch Amy Schumer with a $20 million special. And so, and that's why Chinook is right. He says, I think the same thing happens sometimes when bigger companies take over smaller companies. Oh, it's exactly the same thing in the technology world. A better company is not going to get bought by a company unless the founders are on board. And so you see it again and again. I mean, for example, I knew that there was something shady about Facebook very early on, even though I wasn't paying much attention to it. But I knew there was something shady about Facebook when Microsoft invested a reasonably large sum of money, but just for a tiny, tiny little piece of it, because what they wanted to do is they wanted to send the signal that Facebook was worth, some ridiculous, multiple of billions, when obviously it wasn't. And so, it's all a lie. And here's another way that you can tell, by the way. When you see really rich people saying that they're not leaving money to their kids, it's not actually their money. Their success was propped up. They're allowed to be rich their entire lives. And then, when they die and go to hell, then the money gets funneled to the next successful person. So, I mean, it didn't surprise me in the slightest when Mark Zuckerberg came out and said, I'm not leaving my money to my kids. I just laughed. I was like, yeah, no one really thought you were. Bill Gates, same thing. Sting, same thing. Yep. Yeah, and you see the gaming was interesting because, again, gaming, there was a period in time. In fact, some of the companies are still legitimate. Like the one legitimate company now is Epic Mega Games. They never took the ticket. They earned their success the hard way. But, and they refused to let people buy them. Microsoft tried to buy them. Other people tried to buy them. They wouldn't take it. But Blizzard, they got bought out. Obviously Origin Systems, they got bought out. I haven't paid close attention to CD Projekt Red. I don't know what. I don't know what else. I mean, they were definitely. They definitely built their success on their own. But is id Software still legit? I don't actually know who's running that or doing that now. Yeah, BioWare, absolutely. No question. And so you can look at what people do and how they behave after they became quote unquote successful. And so, it is owned by, yeah, so no, I don't think it is legit anymore. Valve is successful on their own. Valve did it on their own. I mean, I don't know what's gone on there in the last 10, 15 years, but they definitely did it on their own. And so, but that's the key is always, how do people behave? How do people, are they willing to do things on their own, or are they selling out for the lollipops and fancy pants? Like somebody who sold out but did not take the ticket is the guy who invented Minecraft. He's clearly still his own person, and so you just have to pay attention to what people do, and one dead giveaway is how they respond to Christianity, because the devil hates Jesus Christ more than anything. Jesus was the original ticket rejecter, and our responsibility as Christians, little Christs, is to refuse the offer of the world. And the more successful that you are, the more success that you work for and earn, the more temptations are going to present themselves. Because if they can't get you one way, they're going to try to get you another way. I mean, we had, just to give you an example, when we first formed Castalia, we had something like 3 offers to buy it in the first 18 months. Now that was insane. It wasn't worth anything. We were barely making any money. And so why were people trying to buy us out? Well, now we know. They wanted control. And so that's why we just won't do that. We're gonna make our own movies. We're gonna publish our own books. We're gonna publish our own comics, and because we are not owned by anybody. The only master that we recognize is Jesus Christ. And so, choose this day who you will serve. Bow down before the one you serve. You're going to get what you deserve. That's 9 Inch Nails, not the Bible, but it's definitely a accurate biblical paraphrase. Alderman says, why do you think they were trying to buy you out so quickly? Was it the snappy name? Oh, I think it's because, I'm fairly well recognized for being intelligent and able to be successful in multiple areas. And so, I think it was just another test. I have no doubt whatsoever that there will be some interesting offers on the movie front and so forth. it's going to happen because that's the way that it always works. And so, and it's always a question of, I mean, here's the thing that's difficult about it is that it can be difficult to distinguish a good business deal from somebody attempting to get you entwined to put you in a position where you will take the ticket, right? And so, I think that, that's something if you're going to pray for us, pray to give us wisdom so that we will make wise decisions and good decisions so that we'll not only resist temptation, but so that we'll actually recognize it. It's very easy to make mistakes make decisions that seem innocuous that eventually get you in trouble. Now, I have to admit, it's relatively easy for me to not be excessively interested in this kind of stuff because I grew up in a fairly wealthy family that became very wealthy while I was in college. And I've seen how destructive money can be. I mean, I've known lots of extremely wealthy people, and frankly, very few of them were any happier than anybody else. So, I like nice things, but I don't really care. I mean, I've had a Porsche. It was fun. It was cool. It was kind of awesome at the time. I don't really want one now. I mean, I like the idea of it, but the idea of actually having to deal with it and take care of it, I'm not that. I'm just not that excited. I'm just not that interested in stuff that there's writing something good, writing something great is of much more interest to me. But I want to write it. I'm not interested in having my name on it. If someone came to me and said, "Here, we'll give you the ticket and you'll be the next Tolkien and we'll make sure that you've got 10 ghostwriters to help you, blah, blah, blah," and all that sort of thing, what would be the point? The whole point is to do it yourself, to make it yourself. And so it's tough. It's tough because White Rabbit is right. Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. Absolutely. But you also need resources if you're going to do anything. If you're going to do anything worthwhile. Yosarian says George R.R. Martin seems to have taken the ticket. Now he's creatively bankrupt. Oh, George R.R. Martin absolutely took the ticket. Absolutely. He didn't hesitate for a second. And the funny thing is, he's being actively mocked. Remember, the devil is a cruel, cruel master. And you probably haven't heard of this show. It's called Younger. But and it's of course it's by the guy who did Sex and the City. It's extremely well written in some ways. It's incredibly poisonous in other ways. But the one thing that is absolutely brutal about it is that they spend literally entire episodes doing to George R.R. Martin with their character L.L. Moore. So, I think it might even be George L.L. Moore. Doing to him what he does to women in his books. I mean, the portrayal of the George R. Martin character on Younger is the most vicious portrayal of an author I have ever seen. I mean, it's as somebody who George R. Martin personally dislikes quite a bit. It is absolutely hilarious. Look it up sometime. Younger and George L.L. Moore. It's got this whole like it's like crown of winds or crown of something or other. But it's beautifully cruel. Anyhow, but the thing is, the main way that you know that somebody has taken the ticket is when they have rapid and seemingly inexplicable success. It's being manufactured. Doesn't matter whether it's technology, doesn't matter whether it's music, doesn't matter whether it's cattle futures. It's always something. And if you look at the people who do it, you can see that they almost always regret it sooner or later. I mean, they will all come to regret it eventually, of course. But, as long as you're genuinely devoted to the good, the beautiful, and the true, you will not be very susceptible to the ticket, to taking the ticket, to wanting the ticket. And, if you are a Christian and you are genuinely dedicated to doing your best to serve Jesus Christ in your own fallible, imperfect manner, then you will be protected from that because you don't belong to them. And so, that's one of the reasons why you don't see people like, Owen, Roosh, whatever, me, getting thrown from the high horse, because we're not on the horse in the first place. And so, but the more successful that we get, whether it's with, the movie, whether it's with the books, whether it's with, unauthorized and so forth, and there's a lot of opportunities that are beginning to appear. The more success we have, the more that we're going to need people to help keep us grounded and focused on what is important. And that's one of the reasons I think why I like to talk about these things, is because I want to stay connected to who I am, to what we believe in, to what I believe in. And, I don't want to, it's kind of funny. I mean, they talk about how, the Bible talks about how man loves his own wickedness. And that's true. We all tend to think of, sin and evil is really bad, except for the ones that I really like, except for the things I'm susceptible to. But if you, once you understand that it's one of the few genuine binaries out there, I just genuinely really don't want anything to do with all of that. It's absolutely appalling in the end, eventually, sooner or later. And so, Poison Squid says, what does God have us going through this whole process for? Well, he's pretty clear on that. This is a winnowing process. It's a testing process. Separating the sheep from the goats, separating the wheat from the chaff. You know, we want to be sheep. We want to be wheat. We want to be productive for the kingdom of God. And you can't be productive for the kingdom of God if you take the ticket and submit to the God of this world. And so, that's why I think that the best thing that you can do is continue to speak the truth. Does God have a higher purpose for us afterwards? I would assume so. I don't know what it is, but I'm a gamer. And so I see things from the perspective of a gamer. And so my absolutely non-biblical, probably entirely heretical perspective is that this is just level 1. We get through this, we get to play level 2. And I, for one, am absolutely curious about what level 2 is going to look like. It's interesting to me when you read about some of the great minds of history and their feeling when they are when they're approaching their end. And you've got some people who are fearful, and then you've also got other folks who are just really looking forward to see what comes next. And so, there's a lot of things that I still want to do and still want to accomplish on level 1. I'd like to have a nice long run at it. But, I'm curious about level 2. I don't think there's anything to fear. This has been a pretty good game. Imagine if it gets better. So, Sarian said, if BioWare made level 2, then it's going to look exactly like level 1, except green. Yeah, and 3.7 has it right. There's no ticket that's worth missing level 2. I tend to agree. So, anyhow, if anyone's got some super chats, go ahead and fire them up. I've got about another 10-15 minutes if anybody has them. And so, do addictions and sins get tougher and tougher as you conquer more and more sin? I don't think so. I think they tend to get easier. Have all the missionaries been sent out? No. They've all been sent out in the U.S. None of them have been sent out internationally because very few countries are permitting any U.S. mail-based products to enter their countries. Do you like any of the James Austen's works? Yeah, she's a great author. Watcher Bear sends 5 just because. Thank you, Watcher Bear. Grime Knight says, bonus experience for the Dark Lord. I appreciate that, Grime Knight. Addictions and sins get tougher and tougher the more you give into them. It's a lot easier to kick smoking after the first cigarette than after the 100th, and it's a lot easier after the 100th than it is after 1,000. How does one join Social Galactic? Subscribe to Unauthorized or subscribe directly to Social Galactic. Jilly Bear says, got my copy a few days ago. The book is really beautiful, like a piece of art. Thank you. You're very welcome. And by the way, I have good news for all the Castalia Library subscribers. The Italian Cowhide reached the bindery yesterday. They are going to start binding the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius Antoninus, and we expect to be sending them out by June 15th. So it's all good. Mike, let's see. Snipe sends $2. Thank you. Ganji Bob Flanka said, did Ronnie Van Zant and Stevie Ray Vaughan reject the ticket just in time, cleaning up, then dying in air crashes? Well, there does seem to be an excessively high fatality rate among people who take the ticket and then want out. And so, I mean, that's another good reason not to take the ticket, is because, you know, it's, and in fact, that might even be, I've personally suspected that that's what the Eagles were talking about with Hotel California. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. You know, that strikes me as people who took the ticket letting people know about it. I don't know enough about Tupac. I've certainly read I've certainly read Miles Mathis's paper on him, which is hilarious. And for all I know, may be true. I have no idea. Kobe almost certainly. Kobe absolutely took the ticket. You know, I mean, just watch some of his freaky, weird videos. Children's videos teaching them occult practices. I mean, no question. Let's see. Still think deflation, not inflation. Obviously. I mean, the deflationary case has never been stronger than now. I mean, even people who are lifetime inflationistas are finally admitting, oh, okay, maybe it is deflation. Brandon O'Neill sends, he's very generous and says, I miss soccer, playing and watching. Yeah, me too. I'm gung-ho. That being said, though, you know, the pull-ups are going great. So I'm up to 13 on my first set, and I'm hoping to get to my personal best of 17. Josh says the corona reaction seems like a ploy to introduce UBI. Oops, what's this? Oh, we're done. I think that's our warning that. No, actually, we should have some camera time left. Bearmite says, good stream, here's money. The Cordell Mitchell says, sorry for the tech support question, but I paid for an annual sub to UATV a week ago. Just wondering if I need to do anything on my end to get on 2.0 other than wait. Yeah, we're going to get all the invites sent out for the new site. We're going to do all the next round on Thursday, a week from tonight. We have to do, you know, with as many people as we have to do things one at a time, or we can't do things one at a time. We have to do them en masse. And so, you know, there's people whose emails bounced. There's people who, for whatever reason, have us blacklisted. There's people who couldn't figure out how to make the login work. There's people who did everything correct, but happened to get hit by the 503 bug at the wrong time. And then there's people who joined after we sent the stuff out. We're going to get all of that taken care of. So just be patient, because we need to do it right. If we try to jump in and you know, address people's needs one at a time, then it's just not going to go well. So please just be patient, and it'll all be good. And if you haven't subscribed to Unauthorized yet, you know, this is the time to do so, because we're about to be making big pushes forward. We're going to be shutting down the apps at the end of the month, and pushing everybody to the new site, and then we're going to be working on our own apps. And so everything's just going to keep getting better. So Tomiko says, thank you, Vox, great stream. You are very welcome. So have a good evening, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next Darkstream. I'm Voxday, and this is the Darkstream.